Hey guys, welcome to GCSEMathsGuide.com. This is another video tutorial from Mr. Tafada, and today we're gonna see how to find the minimum or the maximum points of a quadratic using computing the square. Now, before watching this video, I highly suggest that you can watch the other two videos on computing the square to help you out. Okay, so I just want to take a look at the learning objective very quickly. First of all, I'd like to define what maximum and minimum points are, and what's a quadratic. Okay, so a quadratic is any expression that has a square next to x. So here I had x squared plus 5x. This is a quadratic because the x has a squared next to it. Let's say I had x squared plus 6x plus 5. Now this is again a quadratic because here I have an x squared. So it's very important that you recognize when you have a quadratic. If for instance I had something like 6x plus 2, this is not a quadratic because the x does not have a squared, so this is not a quadratic. Okay, now the next thing I want to define is basically what do you understand by the word minimum and maximum point. Now what you should know is that whenever you have a quadratic equation or quadratic expression and you plot a graph for it, you usually end up with two types of curves. Either a smiley face, so a curve like that, which in mathematical term is called a parabola, and you can also have something like that one where I call it a sad face. Okay, but again it's called a parabola. Now, so what are the maximum points and the minimum points? Well, if you look at the actual graph, there's two important points that we need to know, and those points are basically right at the top here and right at the bottom here. The point which is right at the top, I think you've probably guessed it now, is called the maximum. Okay, so this is called the maximum, and the point which is right at the bottom is called the minimum. Alright, now there are some people might be saying to me, why do we need to work at the maximum and why do we need to work at the minimum? There are some use to it, but this is beyond the scope of the GCSE course, and if you're doing A-level maths later on, then you will see the use of finding the minimum and maximum. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples on how to find the maximum and the minimum. Now, if you have seen my previous video on computing the square, you'll find that pretty straightforward. So let's say we had something like x squared plus 10x plus 5, and you want to know the coordinates of the maximum point. So I know for a fact this is going to be a quadratic graph, and I know it's going to be a smiley face because I've got a plus here in front of the x squared. So when it's a positive x squared, it's going to be a smiley face. So therefore I'm trying to find a minimum point. Okay, so excuse me. So whenever I know that my x squared is positive, I'm going to have a smiley face, and therefore I know for a fact I'm going to be looking for a minimum point. So my job is to find the coordinates of that minimum point, and to do that we're going to use computing the square. So again, to compute the square, you put a bracket, you put a squared, you put an x here, and you put a minus. Next you're going to halve the 10, which is 5, and then you're going to square the 5. 5 squared is equal to 25, and 25 plus the 5, which is coming from up here gives me x plus 5 squared minus 20. Once you get to that stage, you're almost done. All you need to do now is look at the two numbers that you have here. Oops, sorry, wrong pen. So look at that number here and look at that number here. This number gives you the x coordinates. Okay, so this is the x coordinates, but there's a slight twist to it. If it's a positive number, then you have to pick it as being negative. Okay, and if it was negative, then it would be positive. Alright, so in this case I've got plus 5, so my x coordinate is going to be minus 5. And that number here, you should have guessed it now, is the y coordinates. So this one here is the y coordinates. So the y coordinate is minus 20, and for that one you don't need to change anything. So this one needs changing, that one doesn't. So the plus 5 becomes minus 5, the minus 20 stays the same. So now I'm in a position where I can write down the coordinates of my minimum points. So the minimum point for x is minus 5 and for y is minus 20, and there's my answer. Alright, now let me give you one question for you to try out. Find the minimum point. Okay, so find the minimum point of x squared plus 10x plus 20, and I want you to find the coordinates. And the next thing I want you to do, so that's part A. Part B, I want you to tell me whether it's a smiley face or sad face. So is it a smiley face? So something like that, or something like that. Okay, now if you know, can you write down the comments in the box below and explain to me why. Okay, I hope that was helpful. If you found my video helpful, and if you have watched it on my blog or on YouTube, don't forget to click the like button and share it with your friends. So this was another video tutorial from Mr. Tafadar, and I'll see you soon. Bye.